Being a conversationalist has taught me that some of life's greatest value comes from the stories, journeys, and experiences of others. Through this podcast, I'll be speaking with some of the most tapped in and inspiring individuals from various different industries to unpack the gems behind successfully navigating our way through life with purpose. This is Candid Conversations on the Nicola Dawkins podcast. Welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations on the Nicola Dawkins podcast. Today I am joined by Darren.
Hello.
Darren Monioro. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
Good. Darren is the founder of B.O.X, which is a platform designed to help Black founders raise funds for their businesses.
Yep.
How are you today, Darren?
I'm good. Sun is shining.
Good.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a good day. It's a good day today. Part of the reason, so for anyone watching, part of the reason I've brought Darren on today is because we've been working on a project and an initiative together recently. So if you've been following myself for some time, you will remember I released an ebook, a credit building ebook called What I Wish I Knew About Credit. When I released the ebook, I got in contact with Darren. We became, was it through Clubhouse?
It was through Clubhouse, yeah.
We became attached. See, the app was good for something. We became attached via Clubhouse, or we got put in contact via Clubhouse, and Darren got in contact to say you also had quite a lot of information and credit building gems of your own and from your own journey that actually partnered together made the ebook a lot better and a lot more powerful. So since then, myself and Darren have been working on a credit building initiative together called What We Wish We Knew About Credit,
Yes, ma'am.
which is a revised ebook, a lengthened ebook.
Yep.
Which includes both of our journeys and all of the gems that we've collected along the way. It also will include things like masterclasses and consultancy and just credit information and credit building gems all together. So today we've just come to do this episode to discuss really our journeys with credit, which naturally will convert into some gems for you guys, and just to introduce ourselves and to give really a bit of background about what birthed the initiative. So I'll let you start. What was your introduction to credit? What was your first introduction to credit?
Wow, first introduction to credit. I think it's taking me back, but I think it was when I was younger. I think in college. I think I was working in Marks and Spencer's at the time, and this is where I got my first kind of exposure into what negative kind of things on your credit profile, the impact it can have. So I think I was working for, I think it's Marks and Spencer's at the time. I was in college, and I think I handed them a notice. It was time for me to leave and time for me to move on. And I think they had overpaid me. Now I'm thinking, free money, man.
Thank you.
I was like, Marks and Spencer's, that's your L.
Literally.
Yeah, that's not how it went down. So obviously now, once they realized their clerical error, they didn't just let it go. And it wasn't much money. It was like £400. I wasn't making big money at the time. And I think, I remember they pursued it, and very much like, we need that money back. That money is not supposed to be for yours.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, that's how it went down. And I was like, get that money back.
Yeah.
That money's been spent on trainers, and dinners, and that money's dead. So they went through the process. And at this point, I didn't understand what debt recovery meant. When the letters changed color, I just thought that was just aesthetics. Do you know what I mean? I didn't think that when the envelopes changed color, it meant anything. So again, I just ignored it. I was like, no, you're not getting that money. Well, that's your mistake. And then that's your L. I was like, that's how it goes. That's how the game goes. You make a mistake, you own it. And then I got hit with a CCJ for that money.
Wow.
At this point, I still didn't understand what a CCJ was. I was like, what does that mean? I'm still working, I'm still making money. It doesn't mean anything. And it's only now because I'm sort of just turning 18. So this is where credit for life starts to become applicable. So now I'm looking at, trying to get my own car, trying to get my phone, and I'm realizing this stuff is declining. And I'm like, what is going on? And obviously, every time you decline for a credit application, they recommend check your credit file. What are you talking about?
What's that?
I'm going to go somewhere else.
Typical.
What are you talking about? I'm going to go somewhere else. And you realize it's just no's across the board. So I'm like, right, something's up, right? I check it, I realize I got a CCJ, and I'm thinking, so what does this mean? And then I start to realize, that means your credit profile has been stung, basically. And I start to trace the source of it, and I realize it's that CCJ. And obviously that wasn't the only thing, but that was the biggest thing at the time. And that kind of, it switched a light on, not bright enough, but a little bit of a light on to say, okay, maybe don't play with Marks and Spencer's.
Yeah, not that there's consequences across the board, but Marks and Spencer's, we're not going to go there.
But I think that was my first exposure to being stung
Yeah.
for bad credit. It was that one event. And I look back that day and I literally kicked myself thinking, dickhead.
Wait, we don't swear on this podcast.
We don't swear on this podcast.
No.
I take it back. I apologize.
Yeah. It's fine. You get one.
Silly.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And how did you? So that was you said you were then aware now of, right, actually my actions had consequences.
Yeah.
How did you work on like building that or recovering from that?
So I think the light switched on at the point where I was trying to kind of apply for credit, but the damage already been done before that. So what I started to realize is that wasn't the only damage coming down the track.
Right.
It was the one that kind of set off my awareness, but there were other bombs that were in the sky waiting to fall. So I had sort of, what did I have at the time? I think I had some credit cards that wasn't being managed right. And I clicked on way too late to do something about that, to really correct it. So within a matter of maybe 6 or 7 months, it was like bang, bang,
Ruined
bang,
for 6
bang,
years now.
bang.
Yeah.
And yeah, I realized it was ruined for 6 years. But what was crazy for me is that the 6 year was lengthened because things didn't drop at the same time. So I've got one thing which starts in year 1, another starts year 2. So it went on for the last thing to kind of fall off. It was probably about 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
At this point, I feel like my credit life has just been completely crippled, and I'm
before it even started.
And I'm trying to do what I consider like big boy things now. So it's like I'm trying to get a car. I'm trying to look at even renting a flat and just all those kind of things. And it's just not going in. It's not going in. And I started to look into it, and I thought, all right, what is going on here? What is happening? How did this happen? Why did this happen? And then it was just research mode. It was research mode, because obviously I've got younger siblings as well. So having youngers, I can see them doing similar things to me, because they're also thinking like, ain't gonna worry about that, ain't gonna worry about that. So I can tell them, don't do what I did, but I can't tell them what to do instead.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I need to learn what the alternative behavior is. So literally it was open up the books, jump on the Google, and I started understanding what the rules of the game is. And I realized, like, even jumping into the Credit Consumer Act and reading and just kind of the laws and the processes and protocols, understanding, all right, the rules of the game are very specific, and when you understand them, you can play the game. And I always said to my youngers, it's like the game of credit, it's like playing snakes and ladders. And if you don't know what the board looks like, you don't know where the ladders are, and you don't know where the snakes are. Do you know what I mean? And I used to remember playing that game where you have to get to like square 100. And on 99 there's one long snake,
and that's it.
Takes you all the way back to the beginning. And it's like, if you understand where those landmines are, you can dodge them, but if you don't, you're going to be blown up all the time.
100%. And for me, it was, I wouldn't say something similar, because of course I didn't get overpaid. I worked for Next in my younger years, and they didn't overpay me, but I what did I do to ruin my credit? So I was 21 years old when I found out what credit was to begin with. So actually, from the age of 16, say, to 21, that is where all the mistakes I made lie, because that's 5 years that I just didn't know what credit was, and I was just carelessly, and some things would work out for me and some things just wouldn't.
Yeah, of course.
And my first introduction of, this is what credit is working in property, because I got a job in property when I was just a month before my 21st birthday, and it was a letting department, and when people would be looking to rent a property, we had to do a credit check. And if their score was poor, they would either need to pay 6 months rent in advance or provide a UK homeowner guarantor.
Of course,
And that was my light bulb. It was like, so what's this credit thing then? Because if I wanted to rent a property and I had bad credit, I knew I never had 6 months rent in advance. I definitely didn't have any UK homeowner guarantor either. So I thought, I just questioned myself. Like, I took that scenario, like, okay, if I was in that scenario, what would it mean for me? Because it's funny, before that time, I remember always applying for a Topshop card. And that was the hardest one to get. They would decline me
That's
every time. Sometimes I would get approved for things. I think my first taste of credit was my contract phone. And it was orange at the time. And I think it was my 18th birthday, because I think when I was 16, my sister took out the phone for me. Then when I got old enough, I took out my own. So when I was 18, I went to Orange. I think it was on my 18th birthday. And they ran my credit, and at that point they said there's nothing there. So it wasn't good, it wasn't bad, I just didn't have the history.
Empty, yeah.
So they said they will give me the SIM card for 3 months, and if I pay the SIM card on time for 3 months, they'll upgrade it to a phone. So I did it. I took the SIM card, paid it on time, got the phone. That was where the goodness of that ended, because a few months later down the line, I was just paying my phone bills late. Yeah. My view of the phone bill was, as long as they don't cut it off, I'm fine.
You're nice, yeah.
So I might be 1 month late or 2 months late, but as long as they haven't cut me off, and I will call them and speech them.
Yeah.
I thought I was fine. Not realizing that actually they're putting that on your credit file. 1 late payment, 2 late payment. So I'm literally damaging my digital self at this point without even knowing. And then I had other scenarios like payday loans.
Yeah,
you know, you're working in retail, you're like, oh, this month's a bit tight.
And 3 and 4-digit interest rates when you deep it is
honestly
crazy.
And it was so easy to get. You just bring your pay. Yeah, I'm going to get paid this month at the end of the month. Okay, here. And then because I became quite actually reliable with, because you know, with the payday loan, you know, you thought that's quite serious. You've got to give it back.
Yeah.
So I always used to give it back. So every time you go and give it back, they go, oh, you know, you're entitled to take more this month. Oh, you know, you could do. Like, really?
Yeah,
oh, extra 150. Okay. I got into a cycle, and genuinely, it was a very damaging cycle, because what happened was I became reliant on the payday loans before the age of 21. Just because the money I'm now receiving, what I needed as help that 1 month then, became my crutch 6 months, 5 months down the line. And I also didn't realize that actually every month I'm taking out those payday loans is rerunning on my credit.
Yeah.
So all of these things, and I think the thing that damaged my credit, probably not the most, but quite significantly, was I was working for Avon. You know Avon?
Yeah.
Which you get the products from them, you sell them, you give them 75% of the money, and then 25% of the money you get to keep for yourself. So I was quite consistent and faithful in my job for some time until I decided I no longer want to work with them, and this is long for me. So the last month I owed them, it's either 70 or 90 pounds, something so small, and I thought, yeah, you can wait.
Yeah, you can hold it.
Literally, I had my M&S moment. Yeah, I was just like, it's 70, 90 pounds. I ain't got that for you right now. Like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And similarly, they probably done the same thing, sent me letters, but I couldn't even tell you that for sure, because that's how little it meant to me. I didn't realize, again, this is before the age of 21. I didn't realize it's important to give these people their money. And when you stop hearing from them, you think it's gone away.
Yeah, you do. That's the thing, the silence.
You're like, oh, perfect. Think, finally,
they've forgotten.
Yep, no more phone calls. Like, it's all good. So when I was 21 now, working in property, and I found out my now awareness of what credit was, I said, right, I'm going to go on to Experian and Equifax and check my report. Let me see what my digital self is saying. I went on there.
Blown to smithereens.
Very poor, the red, deep down in the red ocean. Like, I couldn't believe it. And all of my mistakes from that age of 18 to 21. So I guess it's 3 years technically. Of course, you're making those bad decisions from 16, but I think I only had credit from the age of 18. Are you allowed credit at 16? Did I get my phone at 16 or 18? One of the two. 18 probably. But I saw all of that Orange, late. Avon, it was a default. For that £70 or £90, however much it was, they actually put a default on my credit file.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And the thing is, eventually I paid them the money. When I got a better job, I paid them that money that I owed them. But that default didn't go away.
It stays,
right. So now I've looked at this, I literally slapped me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't believe it, especially because when I found out what my credit was, I knew how important it is by this time.
Yeah.
I knew, oh gosh, I've messed up. So I got in contact with them to kind of just do the do. You got to get the eBook to find out exactly what we done.
Yeah.
But I got in contact with them, and things like getting that default removed was possible.
Yep.
Learning. Pay your bills on time,
yeah.
And even little things like credit cards. I don't think I had a credit card at that time, but eventually when I did get a credit card, just working on the limits of that credit card and just the little gems that helped to build back my credit.
Just to manage it and stuff.
Even getting that default removed, immediately my credit increased.
Of course.
Something like the electoral roll. Yeah. There was an error on my report with the electoral roll. Getting that amended, saw my credit increase.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, it's, what do you think? Do you reckon it's our parents not having the knowledge and then not passing it down to us, or because it's common in our community?
It is a common thing. It is a common thing, and I can't say I blame my parents for not having knowledge, because I don't think the knowledge is out. The knowledge is out there
but after you make the mistake.
Yes, and it's not actually delivered in a format which is learnable. Do you see what I mean? The knowledge is out there for those who are in that space. And it's only when I started understanding that and kind of reading up on what the credit game is, I started to realize actually what it is. And I was like, a lot of people think, oh, credit is just about borrowing money. It's actually a bit more than that. It's your credit profile is literally a digital record of your financial reputation.
Yeah.
And I noticed how credit card companies and just lending companies, how they move. And when I started to look at the laws which kind of govern that whole space, a lot of them are actually to protect us, but we don't know. So what we can't kind of assess for ourselves is what to do and when. And that's why I say it's like snakes and ladders, because if you know what you're trying to do and you want your reputation to perceive a certain way, there are actions you can take which make it look a certain way to lenders. Because I was starting to really deep the situation, is lenders don't know me personally.
Yeah, they just
so it's like how are they gauging these things? And I realized it's from a particular pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
And if I do one thing, they think this. If I do this, they think this. So I started to use that to my own advantage. But when I really saw how your digital financial reputation really can hold you back, is when I started aiming to work in finance.
Right.
And didn't know this before, and it was literally like, wow, is this how it goes? Is for you to get a job in finance, depending on what the job is, but definitely if you want to work for like in the investment space or banks and those kind of things, they actually do a credit check on you.
Right.
Just for you to get the role. Now, this is where I realized it's not just about borrowing money or getting contracts. It's just not about that. People assess your reputation on how clean your profile is. And I was being turned down for certain roles only because my CCJ was there.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, this doesn't sum me up. But I guess somebody who doesn't know you, that's what does sum you up. So you have to make sure that your profile sums you up accurately. And that's why I was like, you know what, let me understand, what are they seeing? So what do they read when I'm applying for something? Like, what do they see? What do they count? What's important to them? What's not important to them? So I could put my energy in the right place. And that's kind of what guided my credit cleanup. I was like, all right, now I understand how you read things. To manipulate. When I pay a bill on time, I understand what that means for you. When I pay a bill late, I know what that means for you. When I spend like this and I pay like this, or if I pay in full or I pay in half, I understand how you perceive that. So I can kind of affect their thinking for my own benefit. And that's when I realized it is a game. It's a credit game.
It is. And I think a lot more companies are doing the checks, because even the property company where I found out what credit was, at the time I started with them, they didn't used to do credit checks. Now they do. If you want to work with them, they will do a credit check. And if you've got a CCJ or a default, you don't get the role. If you settle the CCJ, they'll give you the role. But if you have an outstanding CCJ, they won't. And it's funny because that means when I started that job, no, I did settle it. So I would have still actually probably got the job. But if it was outstanding, I would have never got that job. Which was the part of the making of me who I am today, and definitely my introduction to what credit is. So it is important to just focus. And I think a lot of people are discouraged when they find they've got bad credit. And that's what we're trying to change, that kind of mindset, and just actually, even if you do have bad credit, there's ways to fix it. There is. Which we both did.
People think that bad credit is it's the end of the line. It's not. It's a journey, and it's a process. And what I hope people kind of understand is when lenders look at your profile, they look at certain things and they look at it in a particular way. And as long as you can present yourself in the right way, chances are you can actually still achieve whatever goals you're hoping for. And when I learned that lenders only look back 6 years, for me, I was like, cool, okay,
perfect,
cool. I know how to finesse certain things now and start to make the later 6 years look as powerful as possible. And I was realizing, so this now there's light at the end of the tunnel, because really all this stuff is the mistakes last for 6 years. But I'll tell you what's crazy, and this is why I urge people, don't sleep on your credit just because of that 6 years thing. Even though most general kind of credit providers look back 6 years, some look back a lot longer. So it's like, what's on your credit file, it does stay on there. It does stay on there.
It's just whether they take it into account.
And I think some organizations look back 10 years, all depending on what you're doing. So I would say, like, don't disregard your credit.
Yeah, and think, oh, it's poor for the next 6 years, so anyway,
I wouldn't. That's not like a license or a free pass to just go rally.
Course.
I think the key thing is if you've got stains on your credit, understand what they are, and put a stop to them getting any worse. And I think a lot of people don't realize how you can literally shut it at the door. And it's understanding, one, what stage it's at, and challenging the lender legally on certain grounds. Because I realized when I was reading the laws of it, because I was deep into that stuff, I really thought, no, I want to understand how they do what they're doing. Because stuff was flying through the courts and I wouldn't even know. And it's only because I didn't really read the letter, so it was my own wordlessness. But I realized it was going through a proceeding. So I thought, what is the series of the events here? Like,
and they've got no confirmation that you actually received those letters, because they don't send it signed for.
No, not at all.
So that's something you can argue as well.
All these things, and I realized they are actually governed by a very strict set of laws that they don't always follow to the letter, which disadvantages you. So if you understand what that stuff is, then you can throw up these flags to say, hold on a minute, you bypass this law, you bypass this law, and that makes certain things legally unenforceable. And that's when I realized, okay, I can take on some of these companies because you've bamboozled me. No, it's my turn to have a little swing. Yeah, it's my turn. And
exactly.
So I've read up on this stuff. You know what I mean? I remember one time I went to court and I filed a petition, and the judge, like, his eyebrows were raised because he's like, oh, you understand the legal stuff? I said, I didn't come here unprepared. Like, this has been killing my credit for a hot minute. I'm ready to take it all back. You know what I mean? So I think it's about understanding what's happened to your profile, what's happened to your situation, but don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. Wake up and just get it sorted.
And you share these gems in the ebook.
Oh, definitely. Really? I think this is stuff that everyone has to know. So I literally poured out everything I know into that book, so people can do the same things I've done or protect themselves from stuff I wasn't able to at the time.
Exactly. For
Big
future.
time. Big time.
I think a lot of the misconception as well is everyone's striving for excellent credit. And two things I think in line with that is you don't need excellent credit to be able to obtain credit. That's something to bear in mind. Excellent credit just gives you better rates more so. Sometimes, but even if your credit's good, the rates between good and excellent don't vary
I
so
agree.
much.
I think people get hung up on what bracket they're in.
Yeah.
It's more around what's actually on the profile.
And what historically you represent.
Exactly.
And the other thing I think a lot of people get confused with is the timing. So they're like, oh, my credit's poor or my credit's fair. Okay, do you plan on applying for anything in any time soon? Because if you don't, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
For example, we've spoke about credit card usage. And we know that, and I mean, I've shared this openly on other things anyway, but we know that if you are using more than 50% of your allowance, that is going to have a negative impact on your report. And that may well see your score drop, sometimes quite significantly, because you are using a high, not even just your credit card, but a high usage of whatever credit you have available. And you might see your credit go from excellent to good or good to fair. And you think, oh no, like I've ruined. No, it's fine. There's two things you do with that. One, don't apply for anything whilst you're using a high amount of your allowance. And the other thing is, once you pay it off, it's going to shoot back up anyway. Just give it another 4 to 8 weeks. They will report that actually your usage is. So between the span of 2-3 months, you can go from having fair credit because you're using 90% of your limit. You've had a tough month, things are hard. And then you clear it all off. And then they update the agencies, and then 6 to 8 weeks later, your score's gone back to where it is because you have a resident score. I found. Do you find that on your credit that what your score is, it kind of stays there? So even if it falls or rises slightly,
there's like a boundary.
Yeah.
And I think some people, I think the whole credit score thing really kind of, I think it misleads people because. Like your credit score is not written down in ink. It's a moving target. And I think people don't realize that the actual credit score itself is just an evaluation of your profile at any point in time. So it doesn't mean it's set in stone. So like if your credit history or your profile, your activity represents something, it will stay representing that thing. Now you might get some movement because you might have taken out something new, so people perceive that a certain way. But if you have quite consistent behavior, then effectively your score won't drop below a certain point. It won't drop below a certain point. And you're right about the timing, because there's nothing wrong with your credit score going up or down if you're not needing anyone to evaluate you.
Exactly.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're looking at, if you know what, well, I'm nice for now. I've got my car, I've got a house. There's nothing, I don't need to lend anything.
Yeah.
Then it's not so important to maintain or do the activity which keeps your score high.
Exactly.
You know that when the time comes for you to take that next thing,
just do your
you get a head start.
Exactly.
You understand, you know what, let me clean up the reputation again.
Yeah.
Let me make sure that in the market I look like this.
Yeah.
You'll be back to where you was.
And then they, like you say, they do an evaluation of where you are now at that moment in time.
It's always where you are today.
So they don't care if you were using 80% of your balance 2 months ago.
No.
As long as you're fine now, like you say, they don't know you. They just look at what you're doing, and then they will go for.
And what I realized, it's like a digital version of what happens generally, and it's almost like, well, it's a record of, do you put your money where your mouth is?
Yeah.
Like, do you do what you say? If you borrow money, do you pay it back? So
yeah.
really, it's them asking people, did that person pay you?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's what happens anyway. If I borrow a friend money and someone says, well, should you borrow money? I was like, she don't pay, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's the same thing here. So if you make sure that the people who testify on your behalf are always saying, yes, she pays, you're all right.
Then you're good.
Yeah, I won't say focus on the score so much. Focus on the results you're getting and how your behavior looks to people.
Yeah, perfect. I would ask you a question for the viewers. If someone has poor credit at the moment, is feeling discouraged and kind of isn't really sure, is there really a light at the end of the tunnel? Because a lot of the people I speak to, if they have poor credit, they're so discouraged. Yeah. And I think that's probably, in having poor credit, that's probably the worst part of it, is your personal feelings of it. But what would you say to someone who maybe has poor credit and is feeling a bit discouraged at the moment?
I would say don't be, because poor credit isn't poor to everybody. Different lenders have different appetites. So you might find one lender assesses you and you pass, another one might decline you. So don't automatically think because your credit scoring, when you look at it, says poor, everyone's going to take that as your super high risk. Everyone has different risk tolerance in the lending market. But also understand what is affecting it. Like actually get on that. Look at your profile and look at what is holding it back. Yeah. Because some of those stuff could be very easily knocked off. Like you said, the electoral roll is a simple, easy one, and people are amazed. And I was even surprised, like, who cares about that? But it's because your profile is more than just that. You know what I mean? It's an identity thing. It's a money laundering thing. There's so much that's wrapped into that, that it could be pulled down by stuff which has nothing to do with money. So it's making sure you can get those easy things sorted. Things like where you might be financially linked incorrectly, cut those ties.
I've done that too,
cut those ties. There are so many small things which is nothing about money, which you can fix, and your credit profile could literally shoot up. But if it is genuinely where you've made mistakes or you actually have some genuine financial impact, understand who you're facing off against. Because a lot of people don't realize the way the credit landscape works is debts transfer. So you may have had an account with Halifax, but
and they sold
in 3 years it's not Halifax anymore. So you have to know who you're facing off against, and that should be on your profile. So when you look at who the actual lender of record is now, you can start to interact with those people. Yeah. And open the letters. Yeah. That's the key thing, is open the letters.
I didn't realize how many people don't open letters. No. And actually it's very dangerous. Please open your letters.
You have to open them. I think it's so important, because you miss the opportunities to turn it around before it gets bad. I'm telling you.
Because you'll be surprised as well, a lot of companies are quite patient. Yeah. So they might like, I had you will learn this from the eBook, but I had a situation where when I was, again, this was before I started working at the property companies, it was before the age of 21, I took out sofas from DFS. And again, just being a kid, you're like, yeah, whatever, okay, this is the payment, okay, I can't afford to pay you guys right now, it's a bit bad.
I've got sofas here, like.
Exactly. And I did speak to them though, I did say, look, these repayments are not in line with what I can afford right now. And they actually restructured the payments to make it more affordable. I thought they were doing me a solid, but actually it is reflective on your report. However, you've still paid. And it's not like getting a CCJ. No, so you might think, I can't afford this anymore, ignore it, whatever. That's going to have 6 years damage. How they made the arrangement for me, that didn't have as vast as an effect on my report, which you can see in the eBook. what they done with that. But
you're right. And I think a lot of people think the companies, they're not all predators. At the end of the day, most of them also actually want the money back.
Of course.
So it's like they will work with you if they can, because they know if it defaults to them, that's now dead money on their books. And they do want to avoid that. So they will work with you. But if it's gone past a certain stage legally, they have to let it go. So if you can get them while they're still able to engage, then you have a much higher chance of turning it around. And what I find is, like I said, one particular debt can ripple through the process and sting your credit 3 times. And that's what I realized. Like when I look at you get the late payment when it gets a 6, then you get the default, then you get the CCJ, all of the same company. And all of those has a 6-year
because it doesn't just happen.
It doesn't happen in the same year.
So now that the first impact is still impacting you, but the last one is probably 18 months between.
That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
And the process, it works slowly. It's not like it happens in days.
And it works slowly because they're giving you opportunities to make it right. Right? It works slowly because actually they've been chasing you. They want you to get in contact with them and to make some sort of payment or some sort of arrangement to stop it from going so far. So again, with the discouragement, maybe don't feel so discouraged if there is a situation like that, and don't think you have to let it kind of just roll out.
No.
Actually get in contact with them to find out what are your options.
Definitely.
Because many of them are willing to.
I know we go into this in the ebook because everyone's situation is different, so we kind of address how to tackle it depending on your scenario. But if you have found yourself where you've got a lot of debt, and that's what's causing your poor credit, there are things you can do where you negotiate with the lenders, and a lot of it comes down. I think there's been times when I think back in my past, I wrote off like 70% of the debt. Do you see what I mean? And that makes it it changes the game for you, because it is, depending on what your debt is, it's like you don't have to pay all of it. So there are some things you can do, but you have to understand what moves to make.
Would you say that affects your credit? Because I haven't been in a situation like that with writing off debt, but would you say, is it like debt consolidation, right?
It depends. So some of it can be, and I think depending on what approach you take, it has different pros and cons.
Right.
But I think what I did was a direct negotiation with the lender. So what they do is
they go, fine, we'll let you off with
they
this
agree
much,
to reduce it. So we come to a settlement negotiation. So your credit is still impacted, but the cost of settling it is less than what it would have been at
if
full
it was
price.
a CCJ as well.
So for example, if you owe £1,000, you could pay £250, and they'll consider the case closed, and nothing will move on. So you literally
so it shows on your credit report, but it's not like a CCJ, so it's not going to have like a 6-year impact. It will show as settled, but maybe settled under agreement.
Exactly, something like that. And it's just, it costs you less to close the door on it.
So
sometimes
and you can start to move forward, because like we say, once damage is done, right? So you can't change what's behind you, but it's about tackling it head on, and like you say, maybe coming up with a settlement and an agreement, knowing that, all right, fine, this is going to sting me now, there's no way to get out of it, but here's where I draw the line, and I now start to build that good history. And a lot of people don't even take into consideration, why do you want good credit? When I found I was most desperate for credit, when I really needed the money, and if you really need it, you shouldn't be applying for it. Your credit is to be leveraged. It shouldn't fix what is already a problem, basically. And that's why you find when your credit does increase, and when you no longer need it, they're trying to throw it at you. With low interest rates, and here, take this carrot, it's so orange, and it's like, no.
They dangle it.
Literally, so
what I found is, even that, when they're dangling carrots, if you understand the game, you understand what's making them do that. So you can almost kind of present yourself in a way which makes you look carrot dangle worthy. Do you know what I mean? So I find, like, this is why, please get the ebook, because we poured it all out in there. Literally. Like, if there are certain situations where, if you have certain behavior, credit companies perceive you a certain way, and then they start to chase your custom. But if you understand what they're offering, you understand how to read the deal, you understand what the interest rate means and the cost of it. If you know how to use it, you are never on the back foot, and you're never disadvantaged. You're one step ahead. And that always it's a game, and you have to understand, like, you need to know the rules. You need to know the rules, where the ladders are, where the snakes are. That's it.
It's a game.
It's a game.
It's a game.
It's a game.
It's been brilliant. Is there anything else you want to kind of add before we wrap up the episode?
The only thing I'll say to people is, like you said, don't get discouraged. Credit can be fixed. It's not a permanent position. So I mean, credit
will never last more than where you are now. You can at least say in 6 years' time you can be in a different position, right?
And I think learning the credit game not only helps you repair bad credit, it helps you understand how to keep your credit strong and to make use of credit. Because I think when you are lending or borrowing money or whatever, if you do have to understand who you're dealing with, and otherwise you're going to be a victim of lending companies.
Yeah.
And we hope that you don't be a victim.
Exactly. Darren, thank you.
No, thank you for having
joining
me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the sofa today.
As always.
Thank you guys for tuning in. So again, this episode was just to really give you a bit of background on our credit history and our credit journey in coming up with this initiative of what we wish we knew about credit. All of the information to the initiative, the link to the website, everything can be found, and the link to the ebook can be found in the description box of this episode. So do check out the website, do check out the ebook. The masterclasses will come, the consultancy will be available, and we just hope and wish you a great credit journey moving forward. We are products of really, really bad credit. We've been stung in the worst way in different ways. So a lot of information that Darren possesses, I don't have, vice versa. So again, tap into the ebook. It's got both of our journeys in there, a whole load of gems that you guys will be able to take away and apply to your own personal credit journeys. Darren, if anyone wants to find you online or the B.O.X online, where can they find you?
So I think the B.O.X, hope you just, I'll probably send you the link to include in the video, but it's www.theboxunlocked.co.uk. At the B.O.X Unlocked for Instagram, and myself personally at Darren Monioro at Instagram. You'll find me there.
I've been your host, Nicola. You can find me on Instagram, which is NICOLAKBD. All of my links are in the bio, and this episode has been powered by The Purpose Platform, which you can also find on Instagram at The Purpose Platform, and all of the links are in the bio of The Purpose Platform there as well. This has been another episode of Candid Conversations on the Nicola Dawkins podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back soon.